Welcome back to the Future Vlog podcast. I'm your host, Erin Slindy. Back in February, I got a chance to sit down and talk to Oregon's defensive coordinator, Tosh Lupoi. Since then, a lot has happened in my personal life. I got engaged, so I've been going through the wedding planning process, which has taken up a lot of time and has been so crazy, but in such a good and exciting way. But I am so excited to finally share this podcast episode. I was blown away just by Coach Lupoi's story, what inspires him, how he got into coaching, and really impressed by the amount of detail that he shared about his defensive coaching philosophy. This was back before, right after signing day, before spring ball started, so we rehashed kind of what the 2024 class was and is going to be for the Ducks this coming season, and a little bit more about recruiting, which the coaches are getting back into now that spring ball is over. So I hope that you enjoy it as much as I enjoyed editing it all together for you. But here it is, episode 2, the Future Vlog podcast, featuring Oregon defensive coordinator Tosh Lupoi. Welcome into another episode of the Future Vlog podcast. I'm your host, Erin Slindy, and today I am joined by Oregon football's defensive coordinator, Tosh Lupoi. Coach Lupoi, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down and talk with me today.
Absolutely. Wouldn't have missed this opportunity. It's an honor to be here on Queen Erin's podcast.
Oh, Queen Erin. Well, it's so great to have you for our second episode of this podcast. I just wanted to start off by saying I know you are a relentless recruiter. And this year has been really busy for you on the road recruiting, getting ready this 2024 signing class for the season. Up until this month, you got a little bit of time off. Just what has it been like to, I know you got some young kiddos at home. What has it been like to kind of spend some more time with them this month?
It's been incredible. It's been awesome. We just had an epic tubing trip Sunday, Mount Hoodoo. We got some high speeds on the GPS units going down the sled with a lawyer who's now 18 months. But Logan and Locke did a great job competing as well down the slopes, did some double runs, hit the Portland Zoo, which is a huge hit. Locke had a little basketball practice last night, jumped out there. Coach Chris I was fortunate for him to allow me to come in and coach a little bit with him side by side. So it's been an awesome time.
That is awesome. And I know your oldest looks almost identical to you.
That's right.
At age what?
He is 5 now. Locke is 5. That's right. So we did some cloning with him, and it's a mini-me replication.
There we go. And he's a baller?
To be determined. Yeah, we're working on that. You know, growing into his body. Has some mindset training to go here. You know, trying to overcome the work with dinosaurs and you know, the toys. So hopefully that's going to carry over to his athletic and academic career.
Yeah, well, you know, it's a lot to balance at 5 years old, so.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And we're trying to battle the cartoons and iPad play with more physical activity.
Well, that's good. That's good. Well, I know we could talk about Locke all day long and Lawyer and Logan, but let's get into briefly your background and your story. You had a great playing career at Cal. When was the point where you kind of thought that maybe you could go from being a player to being a coach? Was it during college? Was it after you graduated? What was kind of that point that you knew that you wanted to coach?
Yeah, I think you hear a lot of coaches talk about the day they knew or when they were 10 years old and during youth sports, and that was the absolute opposite of me. My path, I was a knucklehead that was in the mindset of NFL or bust, and that's what I certainly wanted to do is play for as long as humanly possible. I broke my left fifth metatarsal for the 3rd time in my career, and the NFL dreams quickly collapsed, and so I was a little bit left in space where, you know, not sure exactly what I was going to do or what entity I was going to go explore. Coach Tedford offered me the opportunity to immediately come be a graduate assistant and work with the edge players there, and it took all of probably 24 to 36 hours at that point to know what I wanted to do in life after that. So becoming a GA, and then fortunately after 2 seasons there, I'm having the opportunity to be bumped up full time and coach the whole front, and from there, the front seven and linebackers, and continuing from that point on, throughout my career to become a defensive coordinator. So that was, I think, in 2006-ish, right around there, when afforded that opportunity, and that was really the time, that I then thought, okay, I'm ready to be a coach now.
And what was the biggest difference when you were making that transition from player to coach, between playing and coaching, do you think?
Yeah, I think, the game consumed so much of my life and really became more of an obsession rather than an interest. And so, in that timing of the last injury process, once again, of figuring out what I'm going to do, I even got involved a little bit with protection dog training and MMA, and just kind of some things occupying some time as while I was finishing up the master's program at Cal, and that's where the transition of becoming a graduate assistant and seeing the benefits and just the joy of forms of development or advice upon players, and them, their game changing or having some immediate improvements from a technique and fundamental standpoint, kind of seeing that and loving that. And there was time where, that felt like that was my calling in life.
Yeah, and just going back to your resume, you had stops at Washington, Alabama, the NFL, and now you're the defensive coordinator at Oregon. Could you just talk about your coaching journey and maybe some coaches or mentors that made a big impression on your career, and also some players that you've helped develop along the way?
Yeah, I think, there's been so many of them that I'm so blessed and thankful to cross paths with and learn under. I mean, again, going back to Cal, the opportunity with Jeff Tedford and Steve Sarkisian at Washington, and obviously Nick Saban for 5 years of my life at Alabama, and really the NFL stops with Dan Quinn and Raheem Morris and Urban Meyer, those Freddie Kitchens, the opportunity of these guys. You learn, you take bits and pieces from all, as you continue to establish your own identity, and I think you take both positives and negatives, from whether coaching regimes, staffs, head coaches, and as you pour into yourself and have the opportunity as you go, from different places of what did I do well, what can I improve on, let's attack the weaknesses that I had and continue to climb and improve to hopefully create the best version of yourself. I think when it comes to players, perhaps I've learned the most from players, and you talk about mentors, but I believe my greatest mentor is film, and literally studying film and studying players and the positioning and even literally the anatomy, and really challenging myself of fundamentals, techniques, schematics that I'm coaching, but learning more so from players and studying from film. I think that's one of my greatest mentors of all time.
Going back to your stop at Alabama, I want to dive deeper into you and Coach Lanning's relationship. Your relationship dates all the way back to 2015. Coaching outside linebackers at Alabama, he was one of your GAs. What did you kind of see in him as a young coach that would make you want to leave the NFL, which was, I know, a big goal of yours, to come back and be his defensive coordinator here at Oregon?
Yeah, I think it was just very obvious early on, his passion, his love for the game, and then again, his desire to improve, jumping in immediately. He's a guy that was up early, leaving late, and learning the defense right away. And he's a guy that was early on was always looking for a way in, never out. He's someone that's always there, available, wants to do something. If there was ever something that was left undone, he was going to be take the initiative to get that job done. That always stood out with him, and getting on the field early. And really just attacking those drills, seeing them in action, and knowing, this guy was going to be someone special. And sure enough, he was only with us for a season because he had multiple full-time offers after that at some great places that then evolved to him in his career at Georgia, and obviously becoming here. And for me, this was, a fortunate opportunity for myself. I've been this wasn't the first time I was offered to the D coordinator position at Oregon, so I was able to invest some time and research into this place and learn about, what this place has to offer, and being, in my opinion, of a top 3 or perhaps the best job in college football, and being in a place where to be able to compete at the highest level, to compete for a national title, to be developed at the highest level, knowing what I would be getting in with Coach Lanning, the combination of what Oregon has to offer and who Dan Lanning is inside and out. That was a very appealing opportunity for myself that I'm very thankful he's afforded me to be here.
When you talk to the people that know you the best inside this program, they describe you as just a person who really emphasizes and values relationships, your work ethic, and just like your relentlessness with everything that you do, whether it's recruiting, whether it's watching film, whether it's coaching. Just where does your passion and motivation come from?
Well, I think early on in my life, a major impact was my grandfather, Anthony Lupoi. He was a poor Italian immigrant that came over, and essentially our whole family, I was the youngest when I say raised in a produce shop, but my father, mother, all my siblings really were. I was a youngster, probably not doing a whole bunch, playing in boxes and stuff at that time, but our whole family was basically raised in that produce shop, and one of my earliest memories is getting up at the wee hours of the morning and jumping in a pickup truck with him and going to the Oakland Marina. And he was doing things before produce markets like Safeway and stuff I think even existed, where he was getting the freshest produce from the Oakland Marina, seafood, and bringing it inland 25 miles. Just seeing that work ethic for me and that way of life. And we were a family that was, again, mainly my siblings and mother and father, but working on Christmas Day there, all that. And that's, to see what he become, self-made, and that kind of built into the foundation of attending De La Salle High School, and seeing just the men there, and Bob Lattiser, my head coach, and all the individuals and the relationships that I have to this day with them, of the work ethic and separating yourself and outworking your competition. So I think that just continued on, where it just became a way of life for myself.
Yeah, that's truly, truly amazing. But now just kind of getting into your coaching philosophy, one word that the players often mention when talking about you is the word ZOM. What is the origin of the word ZOM? What does it mean? And how do you use it with your players?
Well, I think there's a lot to it, Aaron. It'd probably take a specific podcast just for that.
Wow.
You would go to the teachings of Zamalaya to get in there, and you would dive in like we have. And with the Zybel, you can always refer to Zom's 11:11, will get you in, or at least explain the foundation of it. But a major impact play is where it comes out the most. Specifically a turnover, a major hit, where you see the geometry, come into play there.
And I know, going back to the culture aspect, Oregon football has really emphasized, your main pillars. Could you describe a little bit, when you first came here with Dan Lanning, what standards and expectations that you and the other coaches wanted to establish, especially on the defensive side of the ball? Because I feel like Oregon football was known for a very flashy offense, but you've been able to kind of turn that around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you're really referring to exactly 25 months ago, flying over on the same plane. We had just knocked the Colts out of the playoffs, and Coach Lanning just won the national title with Georgia. We were on the same plane headed over here, and landing and going into a team meeting, but we had a lot of really cool conversations on that plane, and talking about how we go about this, how we attack the process, diving into the talent acquisition, and then building a culture. And that's something that I think he's done an incredible job of sticking to that foundation and building off of it. We are not a t-shirt society, and what that means is, putting a print on a t-shirt or I'm sure almost every team out there is going to get a break and talk about championships or winning championships or being champions, but those are only words, and I think we're truly an organization of men and women of action. And so that's our goal, is to live out the everyday process and live out our culture, from a cultural standpoint, from the team, connection, growth, toughness, and sacrifice is what we live by, and then that moving into the defensive perspective, we're really focused on three main things. And the pillars of our defensive culture is relentless effort, ball excellence, and power of unit. And that's not something that I have to read from a piece of paper or look up on a screen. And that's something that's ingrained in my soul. And that's something that I want to coach and deliver every single day in some aspect, from our meetings out on the field and how that's each defined. So, when we get into the relentless effort aspect, it starts with absolutely dominating my box. We want to give 11 individuals 6 seconds of hell and to own our box, followed by how fast and violent can I travel from point A to point B, and to always have a mentality of a +2 finish. So within relentless effort, there's those three pillars that define that. Moving on to ball excellence, I think no one's really going to argue that our best opportunity to win games and play successful defense is going to limit points, as you mentioned before, being a top 10 defense and minimizing points, but also attacking the ball. So ball excellence, whether if you have a +1 ratio, a 30-year NFL study proves that you have a 67% chance of winning the game. If you have a +2 ratio in the turnover margin, that bumps up to 88%, and then a +3 goes over 90%. So, we're gonna hold that as a major premium of our defensive culture of attacking the ball, and that's more so the focus of the will, the desire to attack the ball and get it out, and how we do that, not just to talk about it. And then the last thing is the power of unit, POU, and that's essentially just recognizing and playing for something bigger than just yourself, and the brotherhood that we live by every day.
And the 2023 Oregon defense improved greatly from year one to year two in the Dan Lanning era, finishing the year as a top 10 defense, like you mentioned, allowing only 16.5 points per game. Why do you feel that you had such a big jump from year one to year two, being one of the most improved units in the country? Maybe what one of those pillars do you feel like you made the biggest jump in?
Yeah, I think going from a team's perspective, first and foremost was attacking that culture and seeing such a more connected team. A team that their goals more so mimic one another's versus individualism. And so the connection was extremely strong in this team, extremely strong in this defense, and just credit to the players. I think it starts with them of the buy-in, how we went to work, how we attacked the offseason, truly understanding what it was going to take to go achieve some things that we hadn't achieved before together yet. So I think those numbers that you throw out and having a 12-win season and being 3 points shy of competing for a national title and being in that picture ultimately go back to the everyday process that these guys bought in and lived by. And now we're excited about pressing that reset button with a completely new team and new opportunity, and to attack it accordingly.
Yeah, and talking about also after these guys leave, your NFL development has also been super impressive to watch. Last year developing a first-round pick in Christian Gonzalez, and then tying the most draft picks in a single draft for Oregon history in just year one. Looking at the potential draft picks in this year's draft, like Brandon Dorless, Kyrie Jackson, Evan Williams, Popo, Taki, Casey, just what makes your system work, and how do you and your staff help prepare or develop your players to play at the next level?
Yeah, I think it's something we take great pride in, and that's development. And I think that word is used a little loosely. Nowadays, it's something that we take great pride in. So, how we construct a meeting, how we approach the field from a mental and mindset standpoint, our walkthrough mechanics, how we go into our individual training, group drills from there, our team, our debrief after, how we look at the film and digest it after. I mean, I think that all goes into the development process that ultimately, players are growing at a rapid pace, both from a fundamental and technique standpoint and mentally. So I think that's extremely attractive to the National Football League when, they are looking and evaluating an Oregon of defensive player. They know what they're getting, and they know how they've been coached, and they know the structure that they're coming from. And so that's obviously a great attraction within recruiting, and as we continue, in this short time to push that envelope and exceed the expectations, but more importantly, the results every year of increasing the NFL draft picks, that all is encompassing of the process itself.
And just diving deeper now into the opposite, the recruiting side of it, you guys had a historic 2024 signing class, and your defensive class was maybe even more impressive, considering by most publications the best defensive signing class in the country. What was your general or initial thoughts when you were recruiting these guys, and especially now that you've gotten a chance to see a lot of them on campus?
Well, I think it's first recognizing a need versus want. So, having a rhyme or reason of who you're recruiting, why you're recruiting them, and why you're recruiting them so hard. So we establish our own ratings, so we're flattered, and that's great as far as national publications and stuff, but we want to go after the guys that we feel best fit our system, best fit our culture, and that's where we really felt like we hit home runs in this year's class. You see a mass vacancy, at the defensive line position, so you see a heavy signing at that position. Again, going back to need versus want, we're not interested in just stocking the cabinets with a bunch of players. That we want guys that we feel like can make an immediate impact, and again fill necessary needs, for the defense. So that's how we're going to recruit. We're going to recruit extremely aggressively. We know we have an extremely hot product to sell overall, and so we have ultimately a confidence that we're going to win a lot more battles than we lose, and going up against the best of the best. And ultimately it starts there with talent acquisition, and then how we develop that talent, how we retain that talent, and then how we are able to put at work our expert at strategy, and putting all those things together and hopefully putting a really strong product out on the field.
I know a big part of recruiting is watching a lot of films. So, and then the other part is, getting to see those players in person. Just when you're watching on film, what are some things that you look for? And then also on the other side, when you're meeting this player in person, like months like January where you get to go on the road, what are some things you're looking for maybe?
First and foremost, before anything, I want to see an individual that's playing relentless ball out there. So before we even ask questions, this individual is going to have a tough time here if he doesn't have a relentless motor to him. Probably not going to fit the best in our defense at the end of the day. We want an individual that can attack, that loves the game, that wants to improve and get better, and play, in a relentless manner. Then, of course, we're going to dive in from a character research standpoint. Does he represent the right values and principles and values of our organization? Is he going to fit well with our culture? Of course, academically, where he's at and what his goals are there. And then per position, we're going to have a starter point where specific positions such as maybe an edge rusher or a corner in our system, does his length, height, speed match what we like to do from a schematic standpoint, but also always understanding that there's going to be outliers and there's going to be individuals that may not match those measurables. So then therefore, what's their redeeming qualities, that we will take a guy such as a so-called undersized corner, however, has elite speed that can make up for the possible length deficiency, or the edge rusher that everyone's looking for with a length, speed, size combination, where a guy might lack a little length or height, yet his motor is so unbelievably relentless that he's going to outcompete and outfight offensive tackles with 35-inch arms.
Do you have any fun stories about maybe some players that you've gotten a chance to recruit Any in-home visits?
Yeah, the greatest thing about recruiting is the relationship building process and all the different walks of life you come across. And I'm so fortunate where football has taken myself, and from a cultural standpoint, from a socioeconomic standpoint, from a religious standpoint, you get interaction with so many people that I think all again pours back into your own identity, and even wisdom standpoint, learning from so many individuals. So that's personally what I love from the recruiting standpoint. As far as some stories, I would just reflect on some recent times where, I always ask the question, whether you go into a living room or go into a school, I always challenge our staff, you're one of 180 coaches that are coming in the next 3 weeks. Okay, so what separates you from everybody else? Are you talking about this same old spiel that they've heard, and you can literally tell by their body language, at times of like, here we go again. So I never want to be, thought of as one of those coaches that comes in and I want to have a memory for someone. I want them to recognize that this is different, and this is something maybe refreshing perhaps.
I know it takes a village to recruit players here against so many other different schools, like you said, that you're competing against. Just what goes into really recruiting a player, especially when you're recruiting players from not just the West Coast, some from the West Coast, some from the state of Oregon, but across the entire country? Like, who goes into that? What goes into that?
It's all going to stem from the leadership, so I think Coach Lanning does an elite job, one, of recognizing the importance and value of recruiting and coaching great players. I prefer to coach great players. I want to coach great players and potentially great players. That's going to make me a better coach. So understanding that, it's ludicrous to me to think of coaches' foundations that haven't grasped that idea or understanding. So to put forth the effort towards the recruiting, knowing the end result's probably going to be a lot better for you when your staff is coaching potentially elite players. So stemming from the head coach and understanding that, but we are a team attack recruiting process here, and it truly takes a village to do that. So having elite so-called support staff, chief of staff, Marshall, and our recruiting ops, and Tyler Dean and Patrick and Ryan Brosnan and Lydia and Brittany and Cassidy and Matt Neuer and my man Kobe and Jake and Drew, Brian, Darren. I mean, the list, I guarantee I didn't mention them all. There's so many more, but that are involved in this village here, of the attention to detail, the relationship building process, the checkups, and I think the line of communication of so much more than just talking about football.
Knowing that all of this work hopefully is going to pay off, as we start spring practice here soon. There's a ton of work to be done between now and August when you start fall camp, but lucky for you, a lot of your players from this signing class actually enrolled early, so you're already having the opportunity to get them on campus and work with them. What would you say to Ducks fans to give them a little overview of what they can expect, maybe going into spring practice and going into next season, especially heading into a brand new conference?
We're obviously going to set some extremely high goals and put and own the expectations, but really we're going to focus more so on the everyday process, being men of action, attacking every single day, focusing on little things that we truly believe are going to play a role in the success or the demise of the end result. So we're really not going to focus much at all on season right now. We're going to focus on today and owning today, just like we did when we attacked the team run this morning. And the energy, the juice, the content that's involved there, the attention to detail that goes into every single station. Both we have an elite strength staff led by Wilson Love and his awesome team, and our team really catering to them, meaning our full-time coaches and support staff being right there with them. That's how we live it every day together, and we're not a bunch of separate entities over here. We truly feel like it's a family process that we're attacking from, a strength and conditioning standpoint, a football standpoint, a spiritual standpoint, a player development standpoint, an academic standpoint, a nutrition standpoint. And that's more so the everyday process that we're going about. And we feel like if we take care of our business right now, those big things will really get taken care of, when they matter.
And I'm so excited to kind of see once spring practices start, your development throughout the spring and into hopefully a national championship season. But before you leave, I have some rapid fire questions.
All right,
That's
go.
how we finished. That's how we finished the Future Flock podcast here.
Get my mind
so
right. Let's
today, I'm going to say a word, and then I want you to say you get one word or maybe a phrase.
Okay.
First thing that comes to your mind when I say this word. All right?
Yes,
You ready?
ma'am.
Okay.
Let's go.
Here we go. First word: football.
Passion.
Defense.
Relentless.
Oregon.
Green.
Recruiting.
Stamina.
Nike.
Innovation.
Eugene.
Unity.
Phil Knight.
Elite.
And 2024.
Attack the process.
Attack the process. There.
3 words, but
That's I'll accept.
that's what we're gonna do.
I'll accept.
It's a phrase.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking time to sit down with me and to learn more about your story. It was so fun to get to know you as a coach and as a person. And I wish you the best of luck heading into spring ball.
Thank you very much, Aaron, and congratulations to you. Some new big-time news. I was told that possibly you have an engagement now.
I am a fiance now, so.
I'm excited for you and excited for the individual that has asked you to marry him. He's a lucky man.
Thank you.
All right, and you're a lucky woman.
Well, thank you so much. I have Coach Lupoi's approval, which is all I need.
That's right.
Awesome.
Let's go Ducks.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Future Flock podcast. Don't forget to comment below on which duck or future duck you want to hear from next, and like and subscribe for all the latest Oregon football recruiting news. We'll see you next time.